your questions make the show. Without your questions, I don't have a show. This is for December 2025. So, this is actually November 28th. It's the day after Thanksgiving. I am shooting Ask Earl Anything. Let's talk a little bit about the state of the union, of the world we're living in. Last month, I got a lot of responses to my Drum Covers is Dead remarks in the last Ask Earl Anything. I think for the most part, what I meant was, for me, I've plateaued. I have a friend on YouTube. His name is Vintage Drummer. Some of you guys follow him. His name is Ryan. He is kicking butt, man. Every time I look at one of his videos, it's 600, 1,000. So I think it's content plus age group possibly now. I think I've aged out of the Xer millennial age group. I'm definitely out of the millennial age group. I don't think the millennials watch me. I think I get a lot of you guys that are gray hairs and maybe some Xers, guys that play in dad bands and stuff. But I think Ryan's got an interesting space right now. He's one of the few guys I noticed that's getting a lot of views. Now, I'm not saying there's not other guys getting views, but what I was trying to say is that drum covers to do drum covers is not a good marketing strategy for YouTube. Let's just put it that way. So, I've been thinking a lot about this. I do drum covers, I've been saying this for a long time, just because I want to do drum covers, because I love to play these songs. So it's for the love of playing the songs. Now, I said to my friend Mike Fasano, I was talking to Mike Fasano, I don't know if any of you have seen the Mike Fasano Gretsch hardware ad.
Hey, it's Mike Fasano. I'm here checking out the new Gretsch Concert Series hardware. When I'm not playing drums in Tiger Army, I have a business here in Los Angeles where I'm working with multiple drummers on sessions, and I rent gear out for records. A few of the things I really like about this new hardware is that when I'm working with different people, it has everything that I need to make the drummer comfortable in his angle, his setup, his height, his cymbal stiffness on the stand. It's really great stuff. Looking forward to using it.
Popped up yesterday. We talked on Thanksgiving. It was great to talk to Mike. Mike's a Gretsch endorser. Mike's claim to fame is a band called Tiger Army and being Warrant's 7th and 9th drummer. So he was in Warrant. Cherry Pie. Mike did a ad for Gretsch hardware, the new Gretsch hardware they came out with. And he was there mostly for Matt Sorum, who's a Gretsch artist too, and he was kind of teching for Matt, and the camera guy put Mike behind the hardware, and he was on. So if I get really bold, I'll put Mike in here a little bit with that ad. Now, Mike's a long-time Ask Earl Anything follower. He doesn't comment on everything anymore, but in the back in the old days, he would comment when I pick my nose or touch something else. So those were the days of fun Ask Earl Anythings. But we were talking, and I said, I'm going to change the name of my drum covers to practice sessions. This is whatever the name of the song is. Pick a song that I've just done recently. I'm trying to think of one. Let's say The Weight by the Band. The Weight by the Band, practice session. Well, nobody will find it if I put practice session, and he was right when he said that. People find drum covers by people putting drum cover at the end of your title. And if you're going to get into YouTube, I have a question about getting into YouTube. One of the things you got to do is title things properly. So I've learned that. Michael Perry taught me that when I did a song for Michael Perry too this past month, an Avril Lavigne song. And he kind of said you got to title it. So I always go song title then band. Now some people put band then song title, and maybe there's a better rhyme or reason. But the truth of the matter is, if you put practice session, because that's what I'm doing, I am doing on-camera practicing now. I'm not doing drum covers to make drum covers. I'm doing drum covers to practice songs I love, and some of you get to learn from my practice sessions. Because I really don't see a value in trying to say that I'm a drum teacher, because I play a song pretty close to exact, but not exact. None of these are exact. I'm not reading charts. I'm not transcribing charts. I'm not doing this to give you technique things like, oh, I did this on this special tune, or why. I'm not even giving you insight on what I'm getting out of these videos. I'm just playing the song the way I want to play it, and you're listening to it, reacting to it, liking it, or not liking it, watching it or not watching it, based on what the title of the song is. And I hit on a lot of 70s and 80s tunes, because that's my sweet spot. It's my era of growing up, was the 70s and 80s. But I can play 80s, 90s, 2000s. And I do them occasionally. Or a jazz tune, or a fusion tune, or a Fuzak tune, smooth jazz, or big band jazz. I like playing all kinds of music, so I play a lot of different things. Anyhow, all that to say is, I am playing music to play music, to keep my chops up, to keep practicing, and if a session comes my way, great. Actually, I've got a session coming in. I've got a friend of ours, my wife and mine, who's going to come in and cut a couple tracks. I don't know if I'll record any of that. Normally when I do work for other people, I don't record myself. But who knows? That's a possibility. But, I don't get to do enough sessions anymore. But I'm not out there hawking sessions either. But if you need a session drummer, let me know. So I'm going to be working on this little project, a couple tunes. That'll be fun. And I always enjoy playing other people's music, something where I get to be creative. But the creativity comes from all the practice I've done on all these great songs that I love. So, anyhow, I'm going to continue with Ask Earl Anything. Another thing Mike and I were talking about, the relevance of discussing the drum equipment. I used to feel like I was a pretty good drum geek, but there's so many guys out there that seem to know more than I do, or they're really good at reading whatever the reverb's saying, or eBay's saying, or the drum companies are saying, and everybody seems to be an expert. I'm not an expert in anything. I love playing drums. My buddies from college used to call me the maintenance guy, the maintenance man, because I would fix things, and I still love tinkering and fixing things, but I'm surely not a drums craftsman. I have some friends that build drums. I go, that's pretty cool. I don't build drums. I have built a drum, but that's another story for another time. Anyhow, all that to say is, Ask Earl Anything will continue. I like answering your questions. I like giving you the little bit of knowledge I have of the gear that I own. I'm not as up on the new gear as I am on the old gear. Now today I've got a bunch of equipment questions, and we're going to talk about cymbals today, a bunch of cymbal questions. So we'll have some fun, a little bit of drumhead questions, and let's get right on into it. So let's start with this month's questions. The first question comes from Vince Gomez, who says, "Hey Earl, I don't think I've ever requested a drum cover from you. Can you do Larry Norman's Why Don't You Look Into Jesus? This song was called at a gig, but I never heard it before. And I tried something I thought would work, but the singer-songwriter asked me to drop out. Listening to it the next day, it seemed to be kind of a halftime shuffle. Was hitting the 2 and 4. Any help you can give me?" Well, Vince, I did the cover. I don't know if I'm going to release it before this Ask Earl Anything or after it. I'm not sure. You inspired me to do a couple Larry Norman covers. That was one of them. I'm doing another one too. I Wish We'd All Been Ready, which I remember playing in church with my wife back when before we were dating. So that's an old song. But that song that you were talking about, Why Don't You Look Into Jesus? It's not a shuffle, it's a halftime though. halftime beat. It's a halftime groove. There are some nice pushes. There's a lot of really fun fills to play. There's a breakdown at the ending, and then it kicks back in. I don't know if you did any of that stuff. When somebody plays a song in church off the cuff like that, probably what you did, you were probably playing it more. And that's 2 straight up and down, 2 and 4. It is a halftime, but I wouldn't call it a shuffle, because a shuffle sounds like... It wasn't shuffly, but it had like kind of a lopey thing. This is typical of 70s music. 70s music's not on the grid. It wasn't that, because that's 2 straight up and down. So. Anyhow, you'll watch me play it, Vince, and I'm sure you'll pick it up. It's not that difficult. It's a lot of fun. But I wouldn't call it a shuffle. I would call it a halftime groove with a kind of a 70s lope. And there's occasionally those off, instead of it being, that's traditional halftime, there's a couple of these little syncopations. Anyhow, just something to think about. Great question, though, Vince. Thanks for the question. The next one comes from Lee Ammons. Hello, Earl. I've been enjoying your drum covers, and I'm thinking to start doing drum covers. Also, what do I need to get started and not get any copyright strikes? Okay, I think I read it exact. It was a little broken up, missing some commas. I'm not a writing guy, trust me, but I've written enough to know that commas help if you want me to kind of read it right. Commas will help. To get started doing drum covers, Lee, it's pretty simple. You need a camera, and then you need a decent recording device. If you just do it with the camera, you're just going to get the camera audio. If you get just the camera audio, then how are they going to hear the song unless you play it through a PA speaker? Then it will get the song and you playing loud in the room. It doesn't get the quality that I feel comfortable with putting out on a video. To be honest, when I do Ask Earl Anything and I play the drums, today there's no air conditioning on, so probably I won't have any compression on this at all, or any noise reduction to take out the air conditioning sound. But what happens is the drums and the iPhone camera has a natural compression in it, built into it, but it doesn't sound as good as going through a DAW like Logic. So I use Logic Pro Audio for recording drums, and then I marry it to the camera. Not everybody can start there. Not everybody starts with a in-the-box computer-based recording device and microphones, but that's the best way to get the best sound. Now, as far as copyright strikes go, all I can tell you with that is it's hit or miss. Matter of fact, I was talking about Vintage Drummer. He put out a cover of was it a Beatles tune? I think it might have been a Beatles tune. Or something else. Maybe it was something not a Beatle. No, you know what it was? It was the band. It was Classic Rock Week by Rich Raw Dog and KM Can Drum, Kelly. And I was going to do the band, The Weight from The Last Waltz, and it got blocked. Ryan did The Night They Laid Old Dixie Down. The night they laid old Dixie down, and all the people were singing da da ba da 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 ba dum dum. I was gonna do that one too, to be honest, But I started with the weight. I loved my version of the weight from the last waltz, but it got blocked. Well, Ryan did Dixie, the night. They laid old Dixie down, and he had to pull the volume of the mix of the track so far down you couldn't really hear it, but you could still hear the drums. So he had a great drum part with kind of a little bit of the mix, because if it was too loud, it would have got blocked. That's one of the tricks to not get blocked. So a couple things I tell drummers, besides once you get your sound, I tell drummers never put up a video in public mode. Always put it in private mode. That way, if it gets blocked, you don't get a copyright strike. Because that's what happens, or could happen. So, of course, if it gets blocked, you could take the volume of the band down if you've got separate controls in a DAW. And you can have a lot of drums and not a lot of sound. I did that with a Chicago song once. I did Ballet for a Girl in Buchanan, the whole 13-minute thing. And I had to pull it way back to put it out. Eventually, I was able to put the whole song out, and I re-released it with the original mix. I thought that sounds much better. I like my drums and the music to sound right, or I don't release it. So I have a lot of tunes that are just blocked. I will tell you, don't play AC/DC. Not that I've ever got blocked by AC/DC. I haven't, because I've never played them. I could, but I don't. And don't play the Eagles. I don't care if you play the Eagles and you put out a song and it goes 7-8 years, and finally that song somehow gets found by people and it gets over 1,000 views, the Eagles will give you a copyright strike. I got 2 copyright strikes by the Eagles. One was for the song I Can't Tell You Why, which I got up to 1,000 views within 2 weeks. Boom. The other one was a real old version of One of These Nights that I did 8 years ago that nobody knew when I released. I probably had 200 subscribers back then. And it got up to 1,000 views, and they gave me a copyright strike. So I had 2 copyright strikes this year. It didn't shut my channel down, but if you get 3 within a 90-day period, you could lose your channel. They could just take it away. So with that being said, I just don't do Eagles. There's certain artists you just don't do. So you have to know who those artists are. Always publish in private mode. Private, not unlisted, because unlisted is a public mode. So make sure it's private. And make sure you know there's no copyright, or make sure it's not blocked. And that way you won't get a copyright strike. All right, next question. This one comes from Kelly Cusmano. This was on, I'm not sure which one this was on. This was on one of those classic rock tunes. And I said something that was the take at the end of it. So I have a question also from John BMX for Christ. But I'll start with Kelly's. Kelly says, man, that Black Beauty sounds so sweet. How do you like that dampener? Well, the dampener I was using was a drum drop. Now, I have a bunch of these drum drops. You can use them on toms. I do. But I like this one on the snare. My friend Jeff Holden told me this. He bought the set of drum drops. He found the 200-gram one to be too heavy. So 200 grams has a very wallet on the snare drum sound. This is the 120 grams, and it has a little bit more ring to it. But I'm not exclusive to these two. I will use the 60 grams sometimes, one of these. I like it on the snare too. And then I have another one that's 40 grams somewhere in here. I don't know where it is though right now. But do I like the drops? I like them some of the time. I still think I like better, and I've said this many times, just a good old ring. The good old Gad ring always works for me. So, but sometimes this is the one. Put one of these on there and it works great. So, Kelly, I recommend them to you. Try them out. Start with one. See if you like it before you buy the whole pack. I have enough for all my toms. on the concert tom kit if I want to use it that way. I don't use them on the toms as much as I thought I would. I still think I think they kill it a little too much. It's a little more than what Paul Line would have done with his, his felt washers and with a quarter underneath. All right, the next question, this one comes from John BMX for Christ. He said, very nice, sir. Was number one, was that your first take? I said at the end of one of the takes, I said, that's the one. That's what I said. Sometimes when I get to the end of a take, I talk to myself and I leave it on the video. You have to watch all the way to the end to see these things. Sometimes I get to the end of the video and I play a lot of stuff. So if you want to see me play stuff, I'm less likely to make a short where I'm playing stuff, and I'll actually play stuff at the end of a video. Recently I did a Commodore's tune. It was kind of a disco tune. I'm trying to think of the name of the song. You Bring Me Up, I think is what it's called. Anyhow, I was doing that tune. I got to the end, the fade out, went to the fade out, and I went into. And somebody said to me, hey, you played In-A-Gadda-Da Vida at the end. I said, that's right. That's where that came from. Now, it could have been, if I went into the Ringo version of In-A-Gadda-Da Vida thing, it would have been more of the end. And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. But there's some but I never remember that, so I don't do. I was going In-A-Gadda-Da Vida for some reason. So I'll let Greg Bissonette teach you that one, that Beatles one. But that's what you get at the end of the tune, or I say something like that. Now, do I ever get a first take? Plenty. I've had plenty of first takes that I put on here. What I usually do is record everything from the time I start playing. I don't practice off camera. Everything I do is when I sit down to learn a song, I turn the camera on and I play. And sometimes I get it in the first or second take. That's the end of it. It's done. I've had plenty of songs that I've done in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 9 minutes. And, 9 minutes being a 3-minute song, I play it 3 times and I got it. Because I'm practicing it on camera. Sometimes I'm usually 90% there on most of the songs I play. It's usually that last 10% that gets you what you're really trying to go after. That's what I get if I stay in it longer to kind of work out some of the licks and fills to get closer to the original version. So, but yeah, that's what that was. So thanks for the question, John. That was a good question. All right, let's see what else we got going on. All right, this is K Hong 4620. This was on the Great Pumpkin, Vince Guaraldi Trio. I did that about 8 years ago. And he wanted me to do a tutorial on playing brushes. Now, do I not have any brushes over here? That's interesting. Too much Thanksgiving. I'll give you that much today. All right, so this was the Great Pumpkin one. This was a waltz. So I'm playing a waltz. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That little jinga, like making soup, stirring soup thing. I use that in 4/4. I just accent it in 4/4. And it's just a nice little swishy thing that's a little different than doing. Most people, when they learn to play brushes, they get the swish, and then they play B, 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 B. Everything's that. But this is. That's doing like this swishy thing. So when you're doing 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The key with your swish is pick a place where the 1 is. So for right now it's up high. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I'm coming together at the 1. Now, when you start getting fancy, I was throwing in some of these things. Those swishy swishies are all quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So, in conclusion, could I do a lesson on this? I could, but brush playing is very personal. I don't play brushes properly. I play brushes like Earl. There's a great video that Steve Smith did with Adam Nussbaum on all these great brush masters. I have the DVD. I bought it in 2006 when it came out. I don't see a lot of the clips on YouTube, but they could be there. You watch some of these great jazz masters. Some are not with us anymore, like Charlie Persip. But you watch these guys, or Joe Morello, they all have their own technique. They're all a little different, and they all sound great. So brushes is something very personal. All I can say is work on the swish. There's a guy on there. I like to hawk the guy's channel. He has all the strokes. He has it scientifically figured out. I am not that analytical, to be honest. I'm just not. I'm not analytical at all. I'm more feel-based. I think drums are a creative thing. And it's all about the feel. So when you think about playing this brush pattern, it's all about playing the jazz cymbal beat. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, Anyhow, I hope that helps. Maybe it will. Maybe it'll inspire you. I love playing brush tunes, so I have a bunch of brush songs. If you watch any of them, you'll watch me play completely different each time. All right, the next one. This comes from 11 Drums, my friend Toby from Germany, I believe, or Austria. Toby says, great drum cover. This was I Gotta Try, Michael McDonald. I did enjoy that one. Earl, I've got a question for your next Ask Earl Anything video. Do I need to change my reso heads? I still use the original factory cheap ones on all the toms. Will this create a better sound or not? You rock, man. All right. I will tell you this. If you can afford to change them, you change them. If you can't afford to change them, you just make sure they're tuned right properly. And don't ever, ever, ever put a pitted, beaten up bottom head on the drum if you can get away with it. That's only for an emergency. Make sure your reso heads are not played. That'll wreck the heads faster than anything else. So if you've got clear resos on your drums and they happen to be the Chinese version of a Remo head, they're not going to be as good as a regular version, but they're not going to hurt either. I find that the Chinese version of the Remo heads have a different crimping system, so they're not like the USA Remo heads, and they tune a little cheaper and they last a little less long. But for a reso head, it doesn't matter as much. Now, I'll say this. When I changed these Evans heads, one of the things I did was I put reso G1s on the bottoms. Again, I got a deal. I thought I wanted the reso G1s clear again. In case I want to switch to a clear head again, I'll be able to do that. I had coated ambassadors on the bottom. Those coated ambassadors one day will go on top of these drums. They will be coated on. I'll have coated ambassadors on the tops, and I'll take the G2s down someday. I like coated ambassadors. I think coated ambassadors sound great. Matter of fact, I have another question about heads, so I'll get to that in a second. But let me just say this, Toby. If you've got the cash to change them someday. But don't ever throw away those cheap heads. And those cheap reso heads are not the worst heads in the world. So all I can say is, if you don't have the dough to change it, don't change it. If your drums sound okay, don't change it. There was a point in time, I was watching a Billy Ward video. This was 2004. Of course, money was flowing. Every drum heads didn't cost that much in the United States. I went to England in 2008, and I was appalled at the price of drum heads and sticks. Well, now today, drum heads and sticks cost a lot of money now. So I don't change my heads as often. But there was this whole thing in this Billy Ward video. I remember him talking about, he changes his reso heads every 2 or 3 years. Well, if you got an Evans endorsement, freaking change them as many times you can get away with changing them. If you have to buy product and stuff, well, buy product and change your heads. But the reality is most of us can't afford that. So buy heads that are going to last. Good quality heads are good for batter heads. You want them to last a long time. I barely change bass drum heads anymore. I've done my fair share of changing bass drum heads, and I've got a whole bunch of old bass drum heads. I never throw things away either, because every once in a while I want to change the sound, and I'll go to the old head and put it on, and it'll still have some life in it. So all I can say is the only heads I probably don't reuse is snare heads. When I kill a snare head to the point it's dead, it's done. But a lot of drummers like to use used heads. They're broken in. Jim Keltner's known as the guy that'll just put on an old set of heads just to get a different sound. And he's talked about it. Charlie Watts never changed heads. So there's something to be said about never changing drum heads. And a lot of old jazz guys, they never change their heads. So put good quality heads on your drums and get them to sound good. That's all I can say. As soon as you start losing the life, change the heads. Reso heads, don't ever dent up a reso head. If you want heads that are going to last longer, go for 2-plies. If you like a great studio sound, I recommend a single-ply head on the toms. Now, the reason why I didn't buy G1 heads, and I'm going to give you the reason, and this goes to a question I have about Evans versus Remo. My friend Brent 3760 has a couple questions. I saved them for the end. He said, now that you've been playing Evans heads a bit, do you have a preference over one way or the other? Personally, Remo seems to give the most tone and a familiar sound I love. Thanks. Here's what I learned. Remo heads seem to last longer to me in my book. But Remo heads aren't cheap, okay? And that's a subjective thing. I've had some really good results with Evans G2 heads. I had an old set of Evans G2 heads for about 10 years that I've had on that maple kit off to the corner over here. And they still sound good. So I think these G2s are going to last a long time. But I had some G1s early on. G1s I used on snare drums, and they never lasted as long as a Remo Ambassador. So my thing about snare heads is I haven't had a lot of luck with the Evans snare heads lasting as long as the Remos. So when you're beating on it constantly, I've had a better success rate with Remos. But I will tell you, this UV1 reverse dot on this drum sounds so good that I don't know. I mean, this could be my new dot head. So I haven't tried it on the other one. That's got a black dot, a CS black dot coated. And this has got the UV1 reverse dot on it. I have an extra UV1 reverse dot. I've got a couple of the dry Evans snare heads to try too. But I have a bunch of old Remo Ambassadors too. And I got some new Remo Ambassadors I haven't played. So I like Remo Ambassadors, but my favorite head is a dot head, believe it or not, on a snare drum. So the UV1s really do work. Do I have a preference, Evans over Remo, and I'm going to pick one? I'm not picking anything because, truthfully, I'll play whatever I want because I don't have an allegiance to any of these heads. Okay? I will buy the heads that are cheapest for me. I like Aquarian heads. Matter of fact, the front head on this bass drum's an Aquarian. It's an old Aquarian I've had for years. I put a hole in the center of it. It's got a felt strip on the back. They were one of the first companies to put the felt strip on the back. And I like it's that way it sounds on this bass drum. Unfortunately, the Gretsch sticker doesn't fit on it. I've tried to put a Gretsch sticker on it. It didn't work. It keeps falling off, so I said forget about it. It's my studio drum head. I have got a bunch of Gretsch logo heads that I can put on this drum I have never done. So, in conclusion, is Evans better than Remo? No. Is Remo better than Evans? No. Do they all have a different thing and a different sound? They do. I like both sounds. I like playing different sounds. I really dig the clear G2s on that drum head, but I was digging the Emperors on there, the old coated Emperors. The clear Ambassadors didn't last as long. That was the biggest problem with that kit. I bought clear Ambassadors to get that Phil Collins sound for a while. It just didn't cut it. But I do think there might be something to one-ply heads on the 6 and the 8-inch tom to make them come out a little more than having two-ply heads on those drums. So I may one day buy some Evans G1s clear, like a 6 and an 8, just to try that. Because truthfully, I get a lot of complaints about the 6-inch tom doesn't pop out for some reason. And I don't do a lot of mixing where I'm pushing the fader or putting automation in. I don't do that at all. I could do it. I know how to do it. I've done lots of mixes. But for me, I like to balance the kit and let it play the way it plays. That's what I do. So, all right, that's that question. All right, next question. This comes from Brent, 3760. Earl, great. This was on More Love Earlisms. Great sound, and is that a China cymbal? And I believe it was a China cymbal. I believe it was the 18-inch China. Oh, no, it wasn't the 18-inch China. You know what it was? I made a mistake. It was one of these. Now, this is my 17-inch Fast Crash that's got an ozone. This is the first ozone cymbal I bought. And actually, I didn't buy it. My friend Steve Dupree gave this to me. He knew I was looking for a Sabian ozone cymbal. I never bought a Sabian, by the way. This was the new 18-inch. So that's my 18-inch China, and this is my 18-inch PSTX effect cymbal. By the way, I love it. It's an 18 medium, Swiss medium. I also have a PSTX Swiss medium 20, but it's got a crack. So I like these things. I like these Swiss medium crashes. They're very good. I don't have a a thin, except for I have a thin in a splash cymbal. I'll play that in a minute. Now, as far as China cymbals go, because that's the other part of your question, you said, that sounds amazing. I haven't found a China I truly liked. I haven't played too many, but they all are so harsh sounding. But the cymbal you have there is instantly warm, which I love. I have found, by the way, Brent, that Paiste Chinas are surprisingly pretty. Same with these PSTX cymbals. I'm going to play another pretty cymbal. This is a Tosco by Sabian 18-inch thin China. Oh, that was close. Let's put it up just to play. We'll play with some China cymbals. Come on in, honey. Say hi to Ask Earl Anything. What's up?
I'll come in and say hi.
I'll cut it. Just go ahead.
I'll say hi when it's Ask Us Anything instead of just...
Go ahead. Can you give me 10 minutes?
Yeah.
I have 10 minutes to finish this, Brent. So just
10, 9, 8, 7.
All right. So I got lots of cuts anyhow. So this is a Tosco by Sabian. That's a great cymbal. But I know what you're saying about harsh cymbals, because if you listen to that cymbal up against a Wuhan, 18-inch Wuhan. My friend Jeff Holden gave me this. I won it on the internet. Yes, I won a cymbal on the internet. I gave a cymbal away too, so something had to come back to me someday. All right. That's what most people think of a China cymbal. So that's why people hate China cymbals. But it has an effect, and I like playing them. I've had my China cymbals that are like that. Now, here's another Wuhan. And I like this Wuhan. This is really nice. But it's more of a ride. It's got a very nasty effect, but it's cool. So, Wuhans, okay? This is why guys don't like China cymbals. But I like Paiste China cymbals. Matter of fact, my first Paiste, which has got a crack in it, is this 16-inch thin. My wife picked this one out a long time ago. But because of that crack, it is dead as a doorknob. So, this is more of a stacker now, to be honest. If I could replace this with a new one, I would. But I'm not spending $500 for a 16-inch China. One more for the China cymbal land. This is called a swish knocker. Now, a swish knocker is a jazz drummer cymbal. And Peter Erskine uses a swish knocker. It's got 20 rivets in it. One's missing today. But Billy Cobham uses this. This is from the 70s. Simon Phillips uses one of these. And I like to play it this way as opposed to this way, which is more China cymbal-like. By the way, I got to fix the rubber on this stand. It's not in good shape. $29.61 grams, I've been told. Anyhow, China cymbals. Love them. All right, I got one more question. I got to get going. So, last question. This is from Brent. the last question. I skipped it. With all those splashes you have, do you have any favorites? Or do you think splashes in the full mix kind of sound similar? I haven't owned a splash in 20 years. Happy Thanksgiving, Earl. So I must have been using a splash cymbal on one of the recent songs. Oh, you know which song it was? Was that Avril Lavigne song, that Michael Perry song? That Michael Perry song required a splash cymbal. So I used 2 splash cymbals. I used 3 splash cymbals, actually. I used this one, which is a PSTX, and I used a PST7, and I used a 12-inch splash. Sounds totally different. I think splash cymbals add a lot of personality. I got into splash cymbals, of course, when the Police came out, and Buddy Rich always had a splash cymbal. Danny Seraphim wasn't a big splash cymbal guy. That song, that Avril Lavigne song, required a splash for a crash. But I am such a splash cymbal guy. I've got Sabians. I got a Zildjian. This has got a crack in it. They do break eventually. This is Sabian 10-inch. One of my favorites is actually this Paiste. This is the first Paiste splash I had. It's from the Noiseworks series. Very nice. The other thing I like is bell cymbals. This is a bell cymbal that Kelly Kusumoto gave me. 6-inch bell. I also have one of their accent cymbals, they call them. And here's an 8. And the cool thing about these cymbals is they're kind of cool when you put them on a snare. Anyhow, all the fun, and this is a Wuhan splash, believe it or not, a little China. Let's see what this sounds like. It's more of a bell. I got some weird stuff, I know. And this is my Sabian HHX Evolution Dave Weckl splash. Super thin. This is probably the thinnest one I own. It's got all kinds of cracks on it. But it sounds cool. Anyhow, I love splash cymbals. I don't know what to tell you. Get a couple good splash cymbals. The PSTX series works for the Paistes, but after I bought this 12-inch 2002, I can't go back. So I don't think I'll buy any more cheap ones, except for these PSTXs. Great cymbals, man. All right. That is Ask Earl Anything. Thank you all for being on the show. Without your questions, I don't have a show. I will be turning this into a show tomorrow. So thank you all for watching. Have a great night. I will see you after Christmas unless I get a lot of questions. Thanks for watching. Bye.